This is a topic that not many of you may know about, and if you don't, not to worry, it's what this channel is for. At least, it's one of the reasons. So, you might be asking yourself, what exactly is the Neo Rozarrian faction? I don't see them at any point in the game except for Al Cid, and why is this nutcase covering them in a lore video? Those are very good questions. To put it simply, the Neo Rozarrian faction is exactly what you think it is. It is a group of people that are major supporters of Rosaria, the rivaling kingdom to Arcadia during the events of Final Fantasy XII. Their operations often included activities that would ensure Rosaria's continuing rise to power and undermining its opponents. Overall, I wish we got more Rozarrian involvement in Final Fantasy XII apart from Al Cid, but their rise to power is one of the driving forces behind Arcadia's campaign of invading more lands. So in a way, they were involved, but indirectly. Anyway, there was a manga released about Final Fantasy XII that was meant to retell the story. Unfortunately, the manga was cancelled around when the party was at the tomb of Wraithwall, so they didn't get far into the series. But I would still suggest reading the manga, not just because I love Final Fantasy XII as a game, but it also goes further into detail about the events that happened during Final Fantasy XII, but were not shown in the game. Now, for introducing most of you to this manga, you should subscribe to the channel so I can cover more secret Final Fantasy XII stories that this manga tells. Even if not, you should still subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, it would be great if you liked it so you don't live under a rock and are kept updated on lore videos, and comment on what other video topics you'd like me to explore. What I also liked about this manga was just how much character and personality they gave the characters, especially Vaughn, who until this point I just saw as one of the most boring characters I have ever seen in my life. One of the things this manga goes in depth to is the Neo Rozarrian faction and their actions around the time of the wedding between Princess Ashe and Prince Rassler before the invasion of Dalmasca by Arcadia. This is the story we will be mostly covering, as this was where the Neo Rozarrian faction was most involved. So if you're ready, sit back, relax, and grab a snack as we go through the story of how the Neo Rozarrian faction nearly ruined the wedding between Princess Ashe and Prince Rassler. And while you're at it, be sure to comment your favorite snack. This particular story I am about to speak of starts just before the events of Final Fantasy XII. In fact, to be more specific, the Neo Rozarrian faction's activities occurred just before the wedding of the Lady Ashe and Prince Rassler. This marriage, in fact, isn't as happy as it is beneficial as we saw in the events of the game. In fact, there was a point where Rassler had told Ashe that he could not marry her, which naturally made her confused as to why she would say such a thing, as well as very upset in the process, which she confides in her attendant, the Mariochnus Argus, who assures her that since this marriage is more of a politically driven and not love, she should not take it so personally. In fact, it is by chance that she figures out the reason, for when she overheard Rassler talking about plans to stay at Dalmasca, she overhears her father's name while the former is speaking with the general of the Nabradian army, Forz. After trailing the general, she finds out that he is the guest of honor at a pro-Rozarrian meeting, where she figures out about a Neo Rozarrian faction that plots to assassinate King Raminas, so that Dalmasca can submit to Rozarrian protection, not Nabradia. Before Ashe could hear more, she trips over some boxes, which breaks the conversation and is forced to flee before anyone finds her. Concerned, she finds Rassler about the possible treachery of his general, which, before he can respond to it, both fall from the ground beneath them as they were in an area under construction and fell to the Garmscythe waterway. It is here that Rassler explains himself. He knew all along of the Neo Rozarrian plot and their plan to assassinate King Raminas and planned to stop it. And in order to do so, he had to distance himself from Ashe by stating that he could not marry her, though it be temporary. If you ask me, this is very dramatic, something you'd see from a medieval romantic drama, but let's continue. Later that night, when the faction makes their move, they are immediately stopped by Ashe and Rassler, and to the shock of the former, the main assassin of this plot is none other than the Mariochnus Argus, who was secretly in league with the Neo Rozarrian faction to murder King Raminas. So Ashe would become queen and she would become the royal advisor for the queen of Dalmasca, while lining up with the Rozarrians' plan to kill him, so Dalmasca would have to rely on Rozarrian protection instead of Nabradia. Ashe shockingly shows an emotional sense of pride as she remains loyal to the connection between Dalmasca and Nabradia, and denounces Argus as her friend, now calling her a traitor. The duo of Ashe and Rassler are then surrounded by faction guards, while Argus attempts to murder Raminas, who turns out to be Bosch hiding under the bedsheets the whole time, and the rest of the Dalmascan guard, including Vossler, appearing soon after to apprehend the assailants. Rassler then reveals to Ashe that Forz was in on the plan and was acting as a double agent for Nabradia, luring the Neo Rozarrian faction to proceed with their attempt. In addition, Rassler reaffirmed his love for Ashe and the two got married, which is the scene we see in the prologue of the game. That is, before all the chaos began. That is known as Final Fantasy XII. Well, that's the story of how the Neo Rozarrian faction nearly ruined the alliance between Dalmasca and Nebradia. Honestly, I wish we got to see more of their involvement in the events of the game, as their operations included them infiltrating rivaling kingdoms or using their supporters within them in order to gain more power for Rosaria. Perhaps I may cover an alternate timeline series video where the faction does succeed with their plan to assassinate Raminas and install Dalmasca as a protectorate of Rosaria. In my opinion, I think you should all give this manga a read. When I was reading through it, I was happy with how much personality they gave the characters. Like, for this one, Ash showed a lot more emotion and not the tough-willed Ash we see in the game. Although this could be because before Dalmasca fell into the hands of Arcades, Ash was a lot more reliant on the protection of her father versus the Ash that we see after Dalmasca has fallen. Let me know what you thought about this story in the comment section below. Personally, I like finding and reading these stories that were not implemented in the game, but if you want to see the manga I got the story from, check out the description below. As always, leave a like in this video if you enjoyed, and consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that post notification bell so you don't miss when I upload a new video. Other than that, this is Enzo signing out, and I will see you all in the next video.